Good afternoon. We're just about to start with our next speaker. If you'd like to grab a seat, those who are just mingling at the back there. I'm Tanya Zayeda. If you've just joined us in this room, I'm your MC for the afternoon here with our international speakers, as well as all of our local speakers. And I'm sure you're aware the main arena and the other wing also have speakers going at the same time. So there's a lot happening and a lot to learn. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing our next speaker speak. It's a topic that's on everybody's lips at the moment, the US dollar, and investing in property in the US. Now, Steve Clements, our speaker, has over 25 years experience and an investment strategy unique to the United States and backed 100% by government law. The properties can return between 16 to 36% interest per year and can also allow the investor to acquire free and clear real property for 10% or less of its current value. Please welcome to the stage, put your hands together for Stephen Clements.
Thank you, Tanya. Well, g'day. I got a warmer welcome than that from the picket lines at Qantas. G'day. Great. Well, nice to meet everybody here. I came out to introduce you to an investment strategy today that you probably haven't heard of before. It's unique to the US, and it's been around for over 200 years. It's been available worldwide, but it's unique to the US. In fact, do you guys get Barron's magazine here? Do you know Barron's? Sister publication to the Wall Street Journal. Comes out once a week. You know the Wall Street Journal? It's owned by Murdoch. He's not in big favor in the U.S. right now. How is he here? Anyway, the Barron's magazine called this investment strategy we're going to talk about today as the best kept secret in investing in the world today. Now, why would Barron's magazine call it the best kept secret if it's been around 200 years? Because very few people know about it. And this investment strategy allows you to lock in rates of return between 16%, 18%, 24%, 30%, as high as 36% per year, backed up 100% by government law, so it's virtually without risk. It also allows you to acquire valuable property in the US for 5 to 10 cents of today's market value. Does this sound pretty good so far? In fact, does it sound real good? Does it sound a little too good to be? And what did your mother always tell you? If it sounds too good to be true, come on, no, that's not what my mom told me. She said, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably just a little known government program. And that's exactly what this is. This is a government program backed up by the United States, and it involves investing in something called tax lien certificates. How many of you have ever heard of that investment? Can I see a show of hands? Okay, just a few of you. How many of you have ever actually made one? Okay. Those of you that heard about it, did you see me speak with Donald Trump here in Melbourne or Sydney? Ah, that's where you guys heard about it, okay? Good. Well, if you haven't heard about it before, you know, when I ask that question in the US, I get the same response, about 1% of the audience. So I'm going to try to explain it to you, and I know you'll get it because you're a sharp audience, but don't try to relate too much Australian rules and laws to the United States. We're a little bit different, all right? How many of you own a property somewhere in Australia? Do you have to pay your council rates? That's what we call property taxes in the United States. If you pay your council rates late in Australia, do you have to pay a penalty? Do you know how much the penalty is? 2%. 2%? In the US, it can be as high as 36%. And here in Australia, if you don't pay your council rates, you know what they do? They go, well, put your house on the market, and then you don't ever let the estate agent show it, so you can stretch your payments out for years. In the US, if you don't pay your rates on time within a grace period, and that grace period, you might want to write down, can last as short as 4 months or as long as 4 years, the government literally takes your property away from you for failure to pay your taxes. Is that a pretty severe penalty, everybody? Come on, is it? Yeah, it is. You know, so these interest rates are mandated by law by the 50 US states, okay? So it's not mandated by the United States government, it's mandated by our 50 state governments. Everybody kind of clear on that? Okay? Yes? No? All right. Well, I'm going to make you a promise right when we get started, and I always keep my promises. Before we're finished here today, I will have introduced every one of you in this room to the safest and most lucrative investment opportunity available in the world today. That's a pretty bold claim, isn't it? We'll see if you agree with me at the end. All right? So these are called tax lien, L-I-E-N certificates, and I want you to write this down in your notes. These are the first position lien on the property. What I mean by first position is they are legally superior to any and all other liens on the property. Any and all mortgages, pool loans, mechanics liens as we call them. Now that shouldn't surprise anybody that the local government has the most powerful lien on the property, but that's what these are, all right? This is an actual tax lien certificate that we purchased for $846.24, and what interest rate did we receive? I know I don't speak Australian, but you can read, right? In case you haven't noticed, this is a live presentation. And I know you guys have been working hard the last day or two. But I'm going to ask you, so this is live, it's interactive. So every once in a while, could you just wave an arm or nod or something so I know you're live? Can you do that for me? Yeah. All right, good. 16% is a good rate of return. If you went over to Bank of Melbourne or ANZ and said, I'd like to get a fixed term deposit today, what would they give you an interest rate of? 6%. So you could lock in 6%. Here, you're just like a fixed term deposit, but you've locked in 16% instead of 6. Which is better, 6 or 16? 16? Good, I knew you were sharp. All right. Now, I want you to understand, with these investments, you'll never pay 1 red cent, or you guys don't have pennies, 1 silver nickel, as we call a 5-cent piece, in brokerage fees, middlemen fees, estate agent fees, because when you deal in these, you deal directly with the county government. The money goes directly from you to them. There's no middlemen, no fees, no Bernie Madoff. Is that a good thing? Yeah, it is, all right? Now, a lot of you may or may not be familiar with what a county is. These are collected by the county. So in the U.S., we have 50 states. I just picked a state in the middle, Illinois. Within Illinois, the next governmental level is the county. Everybody got that? There's 102 counties in the state of Illinois. Within Illinois, I just picked the largest population county, which is Cook. And in Cook County, we have the largest city in Illinois, Chicago. Everybody heard of Chicago? Why is Chicago famous? Al Capone. Usually somebody says Oprah. How about our president? Barack Obama was our senator from Illinois. He's from Chicago, Illinois. But isn't that funny how you get famous for the crooks and the most popular woman in the world, Oprah? All right? There's 5,013 counties that collect property taxes in the United States, and they all do it a little bit differently. Okay? Now, these investments have been available, and they've been collecting property taxes in the U.S. before we were the U.S. The oldest one I've actually seen the paper on was dated 1698 in New York. You know what happened around the 1700s? We had this little row with England. You guys may have heard of it. But these were collected from the old days. They have counties in England as well. All right? Now, I think the best way to learn anything is to do it. What would you say? Yes? So I want you to put yourself in this position. Up here, we have the county government. That's what a courthouse looks like in the U.S. Over here, we have Bob, our property owner, that owns his nice little cottage. And over here, we have you, my astute Australian investors who are now aware of this strategy and want to lock in these rates of 16, 18, 24, 36%. So we picked an area where the penalty is 24% per annum, 2% a month. Everybody got that? So Bob over here has a $250,000 house. He didn't pay his $1,800 in property taxes, and he's got a $175,000 mortgage. All right, that's pretty typical. Now, my astute Australian investors over here advance the money and buy the lien from the county, and they instantly start earning 24%. Now, is that a good rate? Yes or no? Yeah. Now, I want you to think what the county does with the money. County governments in the United States are responsible for the constables, the police, the sheriff, the firefighters, primarily the school systems. That's how we fund public education in the United States, is through property taxes. So when Bob didn't pay his property taxes, about 55% of this money would go to the school system. So they didn't have enough money to fund the local school system. Is that a problem? Yeah. They also work with the water system, the sewer system, the streets, the roads, the bridges. So your money, when you make these investments, isn't going to some sweatshop somewhere in Asia where they make Nikes. It's going to a local community to support local governmental services. Is that a better use of your money? Come on, is it? Yeah. All right, good. Now, Bob is highly likely to pay his taxes. I know people go, well, why don't they pay their taxes? Who knows? Maybe he didn't have the money. Do you guys all understand that debt in the United States does not have the same stigma it does here? Have you all heard that we can just walk away from our mortgage and go, bye? They'll chase you down for the rest of your life in Australia, right? We can move to Australia and start over, all right? Now, so Bob will go into the county at some point. By the way, in this county, he has 1 year to pay. I want you to understand the whole timeline here. First of all, he was late a year. Then the county sold you the tax lien certificate. Now he has another year. I want you to think about any debt where you don't have to make a payment for 2 years and nothing happens. Pretty hard to believe, right? Well, this is the law. So Bob will come in sometime during that year you own the certificate and say, I'd like to pay my taxes. The county goes, that's great. You owe the $1,800 plus 24%. So he pays, and he has to pay it all at once. The county looks up in their records and they see, well, we sold that lien to my astute Australian investors. The county cashes the check, clears the funds, and within 5 to 10 business days, you get a check or an electronic funds transfer into your bank account, and you just made 24%. What do you do when you get that email? You saw me? Happy dance. You just made 4 times what you could get at the bank. Is that better? Yes or no? Yeah, how many of you would be happy? Wow, how many of you aren't going to raise your hand no matter what I ask? Thanks, don't ask me any questions. You didn't raise your hand. This is an interactive presentation. Let me go on, I'll probably answer the question. Now, is everybody happy if Bob pays? Come on. Now, here's the question though. What if the 1 year goes by and Bob doesn't pay? Dun, 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 dun. This is where it gets good. Nothing happens unless you make it happen. You own the lien. You are the county. You have all the legal rights of the county. So you must pick up the phone or send an email and say, Dear County, I own Bob's tax lien certificate, and I would like to begin the repossession process, also known as the foreclosure process. Now, when you do that, I want you to understand your legal rights. Those are very good rights because the law in the United States states quite clearly that the property tax lien takes priority over the claim of any person whose property is encumbered by the tax lien and over the claim of any holder of a lien on the property, whether or not the lien existed before the attachment of the tax lien. Takes priority over the claim of any person whose property is encumbered by the tax lien and over the claim of any holder of a lien on the property. Is any an unambiguous word, ladies and gentlemen? Does it say anybody except his ex-wife? Does it say anybody except the United States federal government? Does it say anybody except the bank? Anybody. Is everybody clear on that? Anybody. The statute goes on to further state that this petition for foreclosure serves as notice to the interested parties that the foreclosure process has been commenced and the foreclosure will result in the loss of ownership of the property and all rights of all interested parties. Is that powerful? Anybody loses all rights. You have the same rights as the county government. You are the government. So when you go to foreclose, now I got to tell you there's a little catch. Bob gets another 30 to 180 days, depending on which one of the 5,000 counties he's in. In this jurisdiction, he gets another 60 days. The constable goes out to the house and posts a notice on the front door. They send him a letter, we call it certified in the U.S., that he has to sign for. Then they post it in the newspaper for 21 consecutive days. So nobody snuck up on Bob. So Bob can come in and pay right up to the very last minute. But if he doesn't pay, you end up with a $250,000 house for your initial investment of $1,800, and the mortgage to the bank is wiped out by the law. Come on, big happy dance! Now, how many of you recognize that's a good real estate deal? Yeah. Now, let me tell you the other catch. The bank gets a certified letter too. It says, "Dear bank, Bob is late, and Bob, if he doesn't pay in the next 60 days, your mortgage is going to get wiped out." So guess what the bank has the right to do? Pay. But what do they got to pay? Your money back plus 24%. I don't care if the bank pays it, do you? I'd run right down to the bank, grab the prettiest banker, and kiss her on the lips. 24% from the bank. So what do you think the bank will do if they have a mortgage, everybody? Will they pay? Yes. Does it matter to us? No. But if they don't pay, what do we get? Has everybody got this? There are only two outcomes in this investment. You make the investment, you either get paid plus your interest, or you get free and clear title to the property with no mortgage, lien, or encumbrance. Is that a winning situation either way? Yes or no? Yeah, it's a great situation. All right? Now, if you think about, by the way, can I ask you a question? Is mathematics a matter of opinion or a matter of fact? Fact. So if you take this information that you've now become aware of, and you shift your money out of Bank of Melbourne, and you invest it in the United States at 24% in tax liens, at the end of 1 year, you're 4 years ahead of bank investors. 2 years, now you're 8 years ahead of bank investors. And in 3 years, you're 12 years ahead. You can accomplish in 3 years what it takes other investors 12 years to accomplish. Is that supercharging your investments, ladies and gentlemen? Come on, it is. So it's up to you. How many of you like what you're hearing so far? Show of hands? Right on. All right? You can do this, by the way, anywhere in the world. You don't have to be a U.S. citizen. You don't have to have what we call a green card, a permanent residency card. You don't even have to visit the United States. We'd like you to. Please bring money. We could use it. All you have to have is specialized knowledge and one piece of equipment, a computer with internet access. Is there anyone here who does not have a computer with internet access? So nobody lives in the outback, still cooks outside over an open fire. Okay, good. So you are, oh, by the way, you have to be over 18 years of age. So does everybody qualify, yes or no? Yes, you're qualified. Now, do you have to pay tax? Of course. Australia taxes you on your worldwide taxes. No, you pay your taxes here. We have a tax treaty, so you pay your Australian taxes. Wouldn't you like to pay our taxes instead of yours? Yeah, they're a little bit less. Give it up for now. Hang on. She's prettier than you. See, next time I ask you a question, you'll raise your hand, won't you? All right. Now, let me just give you this article from the New York Times real quick. The New York Times says the maximum interest rate permitted by New Jersey what? Law is 18%. Tax liens can be a great investment as long as you know what you're doing. Could there be risk involved in these investments? Come on, could there be? Are there properties right here in Melbourne that you would not want if I gave them to you and $10,000? Come on, are there? Are there properties all over the U.S. that are worthless? What do you think? Yeah, out in the middle of the desert, in neighborhoods where you need an armed escort to go in and out. You know, here you guys get stabbed, we get shot. You know, so you have to be careful. You have to do research. And please write this down. I bought my first tax lien in 1979. Now, I know that's hard to believe because I don't look that old. Do I? But over the last 32 years, we've developed a 14-point research process. If you do a tick list, if you go down and tick off each box on the list and do all 14 points, you'll never make a mistake. That research should take you no more than 15 minutes for each investment. maybe when you're new, 30 minutes. All right, that's it. You just tick it off and you'll never make a mistake. All right? Now, first thing you have to have is you have to know who's delinquent. Can you all read that catalog? Okay, good, you can. Well, there were 27,500 liens on that list. Now, those of you that have heard about this, how many of you ever been told you have to go to the U.S., you have to attend an auction, you have to wave a paddle, you have to pay with cash? Anybody heard that? That's an option, but it's not required. This list is actually from the city where I went to university, so I like to go to the sales because it gives me a business expense to go visit with my friends, right? Play golf. There were about 100 to 150 of us there over 5 days. We invested tens of millions of dollars, and when we ran out of money, the county still had 12,500 liens left over. Do you think they would still like the money for those folks? Come on, what do you think? Write down, those are the leftovers, and those are the ones that we get rich off of. Are you taking notes? Write that down. The leftovers are not the ones nobody wanted. It's just the ones they didn't get to. We ran out of money before they ran out of delinquent taxpayers. All right? And people say, really? Right now in the state of California alone, there's over $7 billion in delinquent property taxes. One state, $7 billion. We cannot absorb them all. All right? Now, by the way, this is in the state of Arizona, which has a 16% penalty and gives them 3 years to pay. So I want you to look at this like a fixed term deposit. Okay? So if you're in a 4-month state, your money could be locked up for 4 months. If you're in a 3-year state, it could be 3 years. When could they pay you? At any time during that 3 years, and you get 16% per annum. Is everybody with me on that? Because if they sell the house during that 3 years, guess what the law in the U.S. requires them to do? Pay their taxes and all their penalties. If they refinance with a lower interest rate mortgage, guess what the law requires them to do? Pay their taxes. If they want to finalize and settle their divorce, guess what they have to do? Pay their property taxes plus all their penalties. So sometime during that 3 years, you might get paid off, but you get your 16%. By the way, the largest lien on this list was $1.6 million. Is that good for anybody here? A couple of you are a little short, all right? The smallest lien on that list was $12.35. Is there something in there for everybody? Some of you don't have 12 bucks. Wow. Quit drinking at Starbucks. You'll have 12 bucks, you know, in about a day. Come on, is there something in there for everybody? Yes? Okay. Now, I'm not saying you ought to buy one for 12 bucks, but what is the bank paying you on your checking account deposit of $12? Nothing, right? Zero, or virtually nothing. So should we be investing where we can get higher? What do you think? Yeah, definitely. Well, let's do another case study. You're my astute Australian investor. So this is an actual case study of 6 liens. There's the amount of the back taxes. Can everybody find one in there that you're comfortable with? I know you guys in the back. Take out your binoculars, all right? How many of you just take them all, $1,900? Okay, $1,900, 16% for how long? 3 years. Secured by $1.5 million worth of property. I know some of you are going, I hope nobody pays. I just wanted to find out who the greedy people were. That's all right. Yeah, think about that. Run over to the bank on Monday and say, I'd like to buy a $2,000 fixed term deposit. And they go, oh, they're happy to help you, sir. You say, wait a minute. I want 16% guaranteed. And if you go out of business in the next 3 years, I want you to give me $1.5 million worth of free and clear houses in America. What do you think they'd tell you? They'd call the guys with the straitjackets, wouldn't they? But that's exactly what you get. So what are the 2 things that can happen? People pay or they don't, right? Well, everybody paid, and all you get is an email from the county that says your tax lien certificate has been redeemed. Here's your money plus your interest electronically transferred to your bank. But one guy didn't pay. One guy. Well, he didn't pay the first year. Would it surprise you to learn that he didn't pay the next year? Or the next year? Does that surprise anybody? No. So you buy the first year's tax lien, $276.27. Now here's the good part. Since you own the first year he was delinquent, when he goes delinquent the next year, you get an email, or in the old-fashioned counties, an actual letter in the post that says, since you own the first year and he's delinquent again, you have the first right of refusal to purchase the second year at 16%. If you'd like to, please just respond via email, EFT the money, or send a check, and the next year is yours. So what should you do? What should you do? Buy it. Do you have to? It's the first right of refusal. It's your option, not your obligation. Okay? So let's say in this case, you didn't get the email or the letter. You were ice climbing in the New Zealand Alps. You don't get email up there. Wireless doesn't work. So I bought the second year. I'll buy it, 16%. So now, who can foreclose first, you or me? You, because you're a year ahead of me, right? So your 3 years expires. So when you go to foreclose, though, you email or call the county and they say, well, the back taxes are $1548.24, but since you don't own that middle year, you have to pay that year's taxes plus guess what? 16%. So I get my money plus my back interest. Is that okay with everybody? Yes or no? So if you have the ability to buy all 3 years, should you? Yeah, because you got to pay them sooner or later. So now your total investment is $1,548.24. Now you want to begin the repossession process. That's a legal process. There's court costs in the United States. Those run, by the way, between $500 and $1,500, depending on where you are. In Arizona, it's about $875, $900. So they're going to ask you to advance $875 in court costs. Now your total investment is $2,423.24, but I want you to know that becomes part of your investment. If that property owner comes in and pays during his additional redemption period now, and in Arizona that's 90 days, he can pay you the back taxes, the interest, and now the legal fees together with the 16%. Is everybody clear on that? Yes? So it's part of your investment. So now you have a total investment of $2,400 on a property worth $57,000. Now the notices go out, the certified letters, 90 days comes, 90 days goes, nobody pays, and the next thing you get is a certified letter in the mail with your deed to this property worth $57,000 for your total investment of $2,400, complete with a tenant paying rent. Come on, you gotta love this. What should you do with that tenant paying rent? Raise the rent. Come on, I got to teach you how to be an American entrepreneur. You raise the rent till they move. All right, whose tenant is it? It's yours. Now, by the way, this was not a homeowner. This was a property investor. I have been doing this now, my God, 32 years. Hard for me to believe. But I've never once in 32 years ever taken back a home with a homeowner in it. Well, think about it. It's $2,500. If that was a homeowner with a family, wouldn't he go to mom, dad, brother, sister, aunts, uncles, grandma, grandpa, and wouldn't they give him the $2,400 and then embarrass him at every family holiday for the rest of his life? Remember back in 11 when I had to bail you out of that problem you got into? Well, wouldn't they? Yes or no? But a wheeler dealer, as we call him, a property investor who's collecting rent and not paying his property taxes to the school system, the heck with him. He's the guy. Well, come on, the guy was collecting $600 and some a month rent, and he wasn't paying his taxes. Do you have any sympathy for him? No, he was having too many obligations on his properties. He got in over his head. That happens. So what would you do with your property that you invested $2,400 in Phoenix, Arizona? How many of you would just sell it? Okay. What would you sell it for? It's worth about $57,000. By the way, these values that we're looking at today are assessed values. That's what the county says it's worth. It's worth about, the county values them lower, about 85% of what they're really worth. But let's just use that number. So it's worth $57,000. So I don't know what you do, but I'd just get rid of it. How would you find an estate agent in Phoenix, Arizona from Melbourne? You get on the internet. You look who's got a property listing in the area. You see who's got the best website, right? Who's sold the most in the area? And then if you're like me, I pick the best looking woman. And I ring her up and I say, Mary Ann, this is Steve from Down Under. I've got a property worth $57,000 and I'd like to get rid of it. She says, well, I'll need to take a look. said, well, here's the tenant's phone number. She goes over, takes a look, and calls me up and says, Steve, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the property market here in Phoenix is a bit down. But with my superior marketing efforts, I'm sure I'll be able to get rid of that for you in 6 or 7 or 8 months and get you your $57,000. I'll go, my dear, I don't want to wait 6 or 7 or 8 months. Let's sell that baby 20% below the fair market value, put right on the offer sheet, $45,000 or best offer. Who would she call? Her favorite investor. I've got a nutcase from down under. He wants to sell a property worth $60,000 for $45,000. Well, would the buyer get a good deal? Yes or no? Okay. And we'd have to pay Marianne a commission. By the way, they charge higher commissions in the States, about 6%. But let's say Marianne was really good looking, and we paid her double. And all of the costs, let's say we only netted $38,000. Would everybody be happy with that? Let's do the math. We invested $2,400, and we made $38,000, about 1,500%. I had a guy up in Sydney, though. He goes, whoa, but that's over 3 years. That's only 510% a year. I said, you're right. It is only 510% a year. Excuse me. So would everybody be happy with 38,000? Come on. Yeah. All right. Now, how many of you would say, wait a minute, I want to try to get full market value, and I might put Marianne told you if you buffed it up, polished it up a little paint, little carpet, evicted the tenant, maybe you could get 60,000. How many of you do that? Get the maximum dollars? A few of you. That's your choice, right? Anybody here, would they just rent it? Anybody? Yeah, because if you're renting it and you're netting just $500 a month, you don't have a mortgage payment. I know this is hard for people in Melbourne to understand. Positive cash flow off a rental house. You don't have a mortgage. So you're netting $500 a month after all your taxes, insurance, and property management. After 5 months, haven't you paid for the house? And you can keep it for as long as you want. It's up to you. Now, somebody said, well, wait a minute. What if the property prices in Phoenix keep going down? I said, yeah, they might. But the property prices in Phoenix would have to decline an additional 95% for me to break even. Have property prices ever gone down 95%? Ever, ever, ever. Maybe around Chernobyl. Okay? But that's about it, isn't it? Does everybody feel safe with that investment, yes or no? Yeah. Now, why didn't this guy pay his taxes? I have no idea. But this is not uncommon in the United States. You've got to get over this. People, oh, why don't they pay their taxes? Because we don't pay our taxes. People don't. By the way, it only represents 3 to 5% of all the property owners, okay? It's still a large number. This guy didn't pay his taxes on $1 million property for $47,000, and his name is Wayne Huizenga, the man who started Blockbuster Video. He owns the largest rubbish collection company in America, and he owns the largest automobile dealership chain in America, and he also owned the Miami Dolphins professional NFL team and the world champion Florida Marlins baseball team. You can't relate to that? I know they don't own clubs here, but that would be like owning Collingwood and the Sydney Swans. Is he a big shot? Yes or no? His staff didn't pay the taxes. He didn't know it happened until he read it in the paper. He called up the county government and said, this is Wayne. I'm a billionaire. And it's just an oversight. Who do I have to pay? The county said, sorry, the party's over. You lost the property. So he said, well, I'll sue. So he sued the county. Who do you think won? The county won hearing. It doesn't matter who you are. If you don't pay your property taxes in the U.S., you either pay them plus penalties or you lose the property. There is no other outcome. How about this one? Apple Computer, Washington, D.C. in Georgetown. Have you ever heard of that place? The most prestigious neighborhood in the United States. Apple Computer owes $149,742.42 on their store, and they didn't pay it last year on time either, and they paid a penalty plus 21%. And let's face it, Apple has more cash than God right now. Don't they? Why don't they pay their taxes? I don't know. Talk to their CFO. Do they have a reason? What do you think? Are they probably thinking they're making more than the 21% investing that money elsewhere? What do you think? Yeah, they might. Who cares? I'll take 21% from Apple. I'll take it from a billionaire. I'll take it from a property investor. I just like the 21%. You guys with me? Yeah, all right. Now, let's talk. How many of you have a super? Can I see a show of hands? How's that been working out? It's painful. We have what we call an IRA or a qualified plan in the U.S. It's tough. So if you went back about a year in the share market, you were feeling great, weren't you? Huh? Yeah. But if you went June to June, in the U.S. stock market, June 10 to June 11, you lost 38%. And by the way, don't say, well, we're in Australia. You did a little bit worse in the ASX 200. So if you'd invested $100,000 a year and a half ago, you'd only have $62,000 left. Is that painful? Yeah. But if you'd have taken that same $100,000 and invested in a tax lien certificates up in New Jersey at only 18%, now you'd have $118,000. Just shifting your money, you're $56,000 better off. Why do we invest in the share market? The promise of a quick buck, let's face it, right? I'm going to pick the next Google. Then it turns out to be Enron. Right? Well, what else do we do? Well, have you ever seen an advertisement for a financial company on television? Come on. The banks, the stock companies, the share traders, right? Have you ever seen an advertisement anywhere for United States County offering first position tax lien certificates? They can't. You know why? It's against the law. We're conditioned to invest in the share market. So now let's look at math. What does the share market return over the long haul? Does anybody know the annual average? 15? Google this name, Robert Shiller, Shiller. He'll be easy to find. He's a Nobel Prize winning economist. He just completed a study. 100 years, the average return was 7.8%. 100 years. Nobel Prize winning economist. So let's give it 8. See, that's another one of those, they say, oh, it's 15, and people just take that as the truth. Google that, Robert Shiller, Princeton University, Nobel Prize winner. If it will take you 9 years at 8%, the average return of the share market, to get back to your 100,000. Is everybody with me? You lost that. Now you got to get from 62 back to 100. It takes you 9 years. But if you took that same 100,000 and moved it over in tax lien certificates at 18, you'll have 472,000 instead of 100. That's almost not fair to compare. Almost. Did everybody get the point? By the way, is that a matter of opinion or a matter of fact? Fact, right. All right. Let's look at the banks. Boy, they sure advertise. And what could we get? 6%. You all agree, right? So let's just take $5,000, put it in our bank account. And in 30 years, the power of compound interest. Albert Einstein said, the most powerful force in the universe is compound interest. You'll have $28,000. What'll that buy you in 30 years? Six-pack? Maybe. Let's take that same $5,000 and move it over to Arizona at 16%, and you will have $429,000. Can that be less? Can it be less? No, you're locked in. You invest in the bank, you're going to have 28 grand. You invest in Arizona, you're going to have 429 grand. If you'd like 400, I can't help you because that's the way the math works. Let's take it to New Jersey. Just kick it up 2%, 700,000, or down to Texas where I live, where the minimum penalty is 25%. That gives you $4 million if you never get a house. How many of you like Texas now? Everybody say, howdy, Steve. Right on, okay. Now, by the way, somebody goes, well, what if I'm not so good at this? What if I mess it up? I don't know how you mess it up. It's the law. But let's say you only check your email once every year and a half. Okay? And so you're off by 75%. Is that messing it up pretty good? Okay, 75% off, you still got an extra $1 million for retirement. Now let me ask you this, if you had an extra $1 million in your super today, would you think differently in the morning when you got up? Come on, would you? The choice is yours. It's really true. Do you ever think about what makes the difference between you having 28 grand or 4 million? It's really a very simple answer. Most people don't think of it this simply, but it is. Isn't it who you made the check out to? Come on, isn't it? You make the check out to Bank of Melbourne, you're going to have 28 grand. You make the check out to a county in Texas, you're going to have 4 million. So the choice is yours. 28 grand, 4 million. How many of you vote for the 4 million? Yeah, people say money can't buy happiness. Those are people that have never been to Vegas. Okay? $4 million buy a lot of happiness in Vegas, all right? All right? It's up to you. What do you want? And that's really that's all it is. It's simple. How many of you like this investment so far? Show of hands. Great. I'm glad. Now, somebody always says, why are you here telling us about this in Australia? I've also taught about it in the United Kingdom, Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Central and South America, and yes, even in the United States. There are so many of these available, not enough investors are investing in them. Why? I don't know why. But there's always some left over. Just in August, new listings became available for over 800,000 tax liens available. Is that enough for all of us? Yeah. We have a staff. We have a staff that does nothing but contact all 5,000 counties. That's what they do every day. Here's one. Well, we get 150 to 200 people that buy our tax liens. We had 21,380 in the last catalog. Here's one. Well, we get about 175 people that buy them. We had 35,000. So in those 2 counties alone, there were 56,000 tax liens representing over $104 million of potential investments. Is that enough for all of us? Yeah. Chicago, 96,000 liens, 325 investors there to buy. When they were done and ran out of money, there were 44,000 left over. And in Chicago, the interest rate is 36%. How many of you like in Chicago? Now, people always ask me, why would you invest in Arizona when you got Chicago? Well, please write this down. There are 5,013 counties. Let's envision them as stores. They're not all open 365 days a year. In Chicago, you can only buy 6 weeks a year, then the store closes. Yes. This is a very small part of their business. The people that are involved in selling these tax lien certificates have other jobs. Do you guys understand we're having a slight economic slowdown in the United States? And by the way, don't believe everything you see on TV, okay? There's 9% unemployment. That means 91% of the people are working. People are losing their houses. Yep, that's no doubt about it. But they're still living someplace. They're just renting. Okay? And by the way, I came here to Melbourne and I did not see one street yet paved with gold. And I've been to Perth and I'm still looking for those welders making $1 million a year. We hear that too. So a lot of what you hear is overblown. But in Chicago, they closed the store, so you get paid off on one you were making 36%. Should you take your money over to the bank or should you go invest in one of the counties at 24, 18, 16? What should you do? You should go wherever the store's open. Mathematically, does that make sense to everybody? So you have to know where all the stores are, what their rates are, what their rules are, who to contact. Don't worry, we have all of that stuff for you, all right? Now let's talk a little bit more about risk. People always want to know about the risk. Somebody says, well, if people are broke in America, they're probably going to declare bankruptcy. You ever heard of bankruptcy? If they declare bankruptcy in the United States, that will stretch out your repayment 4 months or longer, but the interest rate does not change. When somebody goes bankrupt, that gives them time to do what? Sell the property. So when they sell the property, what do they got to pay? Taxes plus what? Interest and penalties. That's right. It does not wipe out the debt. It does not wipe out the mortgage. These are called secured debts. So the mortgage is still there. We could wipe out the mortgage, but the bankruptcy cannot. Somebody said, well, what if the county goes bankrupt? I said, so what? Well, who owes you the money? Does the county owe you the money, or does the property owner owe you the money? Property owner. And what are the two outcomes? You either get paid plus, or you get what? The house. So who cares if the county, well, what about the United States debt crisis? What about it? Who owes you the money again? The property owner, right? You either get the property or you get the interest, all right? Somebody said, well, what if the house burns down? That could happen. What if a cyclone comes? What if a tsunami hits? The property gets wiped out. You don't get insurance because you're the county. So what do you still have left? Land. What's the land worth? That house in Phoenix, let me just think about that. The land in the United States typically worth about 30% of the value of the house. So the house worth 57, let's just bring it down to 15,000. You're into it for 2,400. Could you still get out of your $15,000 piece of land and be okay? Everybody? Yes. All right. So there's plenty of cushion in here for this. All right. So how many of you like this so far? Show of hands. All right. Good. I got to tell you, I've really enjoyed being here. I've been in this trip to Australia about 3 times. I've been to Sydney. I've been to Brisbane. I've been to Melbourne several times now. I've been down to the Great Ocean Road on a beautiful day on Wednesday. Yes. I didn't get in the water, though. Somebody looked at me and said, let's get in. I said, go ahead. He got in and went, ah! And I went, no, thanks. So I'll save Bell's Beach for the summer, right? But what I found is people are very friendly here. In fact, you guys would agree. You're a friendly group of people, aren't you? Australians are very friendly. And I guess you can pick me out. People just stop me at a restaurant. I guess I have an accent. People say, what part of the States are you from, you know? So anyway, I visited, and I want to ask you a question. Now, before you walked in here, you knew what you were getting information on. So I want you to be honest with me. How many of you think the information was better than you expected? Can I see a show of hands? Great, I appreciate that very much. Another question. Before you walked in here today, how many of you thought that I, too, may have a product or service on offer here today? Whew, okay, well, I'm not going to disappoint anybody. Okay?